of his game-high 32 points in the fourth quarter. LeBron did all he could do, 30 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds in 44 minutes. After the game, LeBron was asked if he has any thoughts in his mind that he could have played his last game as a Laker. LeBron paused for about 10 seconds before saying, "I'm not going to answer that question." LeBron put the mic down and walked out of the media room. There's also chatter in the streets that Darvin Ham may have coached his last game with the Lakers. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First Black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted Black and Brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in to First Things First with the Queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA, we're talking 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. This show right here is called First Things First. And my first thing today, tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that, giving thanks, giving praise, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders. And let's get going. Let's do this. We got a lot to talk about. So hopefully you know what we do around here. But if you're new, welcome. We typically focused on local, left coast, this side of town. We're broadcasting, as Tavis Smiley likes to say, from Lamert Park, USA. I like to add in the Africa town. All of that is true, and so we focus on this side of town for hour one. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And hour three, we do a deep dive on a hot topic or a person or persons of interest, right? Hour two today, it is a Talking Point Tuesday, and maybe a couple times a month we like to be joined by our Republican friends or frenemies. Today it's a friend. John Wood Jr. joins me hour two. He'll be live in the studio. We'll chop it up, but that doesn't mean you're not invited in. You are every hour. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. That's how you get in this information superhighway, old-fashioned terrestrial telephone. And yeah, let's talk about it. Whatever it is, whatever is on your mind, let's talk about it. I'm, as usual, got my finger in a lot of different things, and I'm glad that I have you to talk about it with. I worry about a lot of things. I think about a lot of things, and we get a chance to unpack and unveil them. It just occurred to me that Mother's Day, it feels like Mother's Day is coming early this year. It's May 12th, right around the corner. But interestingly enough, one of the moms that is my friend, who's also running for Vice President of the United States, Dr. Melina Abdullah, her trial, well, it's really the LAPD's trial, begins the day after Mother's Day. Speaking of ironies, it's May 13th, and she will be, well, she's suing the LAPD for those swattings where her house was descended upon multiple times by LAPD with helicopters, guns out, blaring, speakers, the whole TV show Drama Works. And they're just ridiculous occasions. I'm not sure if you remember when we had her attorney on to talk about that. But one of the things that Dr. Abdullah has asked is that folks get out and support her and Black Lives Matter LA, BLM grassroots in the courtroom. So if you have time and the inclination, that starts May 13th, which is, this is the last day of April, so it's just a couple weeks away. Tell a friend. I think it's important, not just because she's my friend and I want to support her, and not just because I support Black Lives Matter grassroots and BLM LA, but because when the LAPD does crazy things, particularly targeting local activists, who they know, right? We don't think that Dr. Melina Abdullah is known to the LAPD. Yeah, right. She was at the police commission meeting almost every week. She and BLMLA camped out in front of City Hall, calling for the firing of Chief Beck, which was part of what led to him stepping down, and waged the No More campaign, which is part of what led to him stepping down early, quiet as it's kept. So clearly they know who she is. So for them to act like, oh, we got a call and we just swatted this house, is stretching credulity. So my point is, when they do things that are way off the top, way over the top like that, it's important for us to show up and show out. I think because it does make a difference. I am sure that given the terrible, horrible, very bad publicity that USC has gotten around their handling of the protesters, they might have done it differently if they had a second chance. They won't. I doubt they'll admit that. Maybe they will, but I think they would. And one of the reasons is because we are talking about it. And particularly, I'm sure they're not loving being unfavorably compared to UCLA, because UCLA went ahead and hired private security to keep protesters and counter-protesters, who have been quite aggressive and provocative, by the way, to keep them separate. And this is what I've been wondering about campuses all across the country. What if you just said, oh, well, the students have set up an encampment. They are exercising their right to assemble, to free speech. They are acting like engaged and informed citizens. We should pat ourselves on the back for doing a good job as a university and try to meet with the student leaders and see what we could come up with. You can meet with the counter-protester leaders, too, if they're students. Most of the ones I saw looked old, but maybe they're students. I don't know. Meet with student leaders and then try to come up with some things you can agree on. If not, you keep negotiating. That would be a teachable moment. Now our campus becomes the scene of diplomacy instead of massive arrests. And when those kinds of things happen here on the left coast, I think we got to be loud about it, because when you look at what's happening in places like Texas and Louisiana, where they're criminalizing protest, right? This McKesson versus Doe case, where what the Supreme Court sent back to the states, which basically leaves their abridgment of our constitutional rights in place, is the idea that an organizer of a protest can be held liable for anything that goes south during that protest. So if, a counter-protester, a KKK member, or whoever they might be, a racist, runs in and smashes the window at Neiman Marcus, now you're liable for that because you organized the protest, even though those people may have come with the precise mission of undermining your protest. It means I can send undercovers in, smash a bunch of windows, and now I can bankrupt your organization. And you personally. The only thing about that, one thing about it is many people who are really out there organizing and protesting are not wealthy. They don't have a lot that you're going to take. But nevertheless, it's wrong. It's meant to chill our right to express ourselves in this political climate where it's more important than ever that we do so. So when it happens here in what we consider a blue state, what's meant to be a liberal or progressive bastion, not all of the state of California, but certainly here in LA, we need to speak up. We need to show up. We need to say, no. This ain't Texas. Ain't no hold'em. So I'm encouraging you to watch the Black Lives Matter Los Angeles website, BLM Los Angeles. Sign up for them on social media, BLM Los Angeles and Black Lives Matter Grassroots on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. They're active. And track this. She's also my radio colleague. She comes on Saturday mornings. But for me, in this context, the issue is being the leader of a movement that calls for radical reimagining of public safety, the kind that actually keeps the public safe, calling for what she would say defund the police, the reprioritization of our budget dollars. That's what I would call it. Someone that has been in that role publicly, loudly, unabashedly for 10 years, being harassed and swatted by the LAPD. That needs to be not okay. That cannot be normalized, and it cannot go silently off into the day or night. So that's why I'm asking us to pay attention, to show up, to show out. 800-920-1580 if you want to weigh in on this and the many other things that are going on over here in Cali. I have some good news that I want to share with you about your internet access. May not be as big a deal here in California, but certainly it's a huge moment for us nationwide, especially those of us who do any kind of organizing, stuff talking, narrative changing online. I'll share that with you and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
Your floors can go from clean to dirty fast. From juice spills, whoops, to muddy paw prints, to little sticky finger marks. Good thing your Swiffer WetJet works fast too. Swiffer WetJet easily cleans everyday messes as quick as they happen. The next mess is right around the corner. So grab your Swiffer WetJet and just spray, push, all clean.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Miles, what is that schism, sky, wisdom? Is she speaking Pig Latin? Am I missing something? What is going on with that commercial? Schism,
it's catchy. That's a good jingle. That one gets stuck in my head. That's a good jingle. I rock with Skyrizi.
Yeah, I mean, a medication that sounds like it could be an artist name. Why not?
Rhythm Kism.
But why are they doing all the rhythm kism? That's
Rhythm Kism Ab-Rizzy. Yeah.
What the heck is that?
You ain't never had no Ism Kism Ab-Rizzy?
I don't think so. Maybe, I'm not sure.
What?
Every time it finally dawned on me, it's not me. Like, something weird is going on with that commercial. Okay. Sorry, I digress.
Yeah, shout out to their stock on the stock market, though. Going up.
Is it?
Yeah. That's your tip for the day, everybody.
Miles, tracking the stock market, I'm not mad at that. I do not track it at all. Other than, I hope that, well, actually, I can't even say that. I really don't track it.
Okay.
I wonder if most Americans track the stock market. Most don't have stock. I know that for sure.
Right.
I've seen those numbers.
Did you see there's a new report out that the most recently, the last year, the newest, what's the word? The most increase we've had, what's the word? The newest investment group has been black people the last year or so.
Really?
Yes, we've increased our interest in it and our investment in it.
Okay, so, well, I hope that's a good thing. And the reason I say that is because we're in strange times. I don't track the stock market, but I do track, what goes on with the Fed somewhat, with interest rates, with our overall economy, with the stability and viability of U.S. capitalism on a global scale. So I'm not tracking this stock went up, that stock went down, but I do track when it looks like we could be, looking at a recession or a crash, a depression. Although, honestly, folks have been saying there was going to be a recession for the past couple of years, and so far we have escaped it other than this stinging inflation that we're currently experiencing.
And is escaping it or is covering it?
Well, we could give Biden credit. We could give him credit.
Well, I mean, not even from just
that presidents don't really control inflation.
Right.
There's things they can do to help the economy, but they don't necessarily control it. But they do get credit and or blame.
Right. Well, I mean, I wasn't even going from a political standpoint. I mean, just from a general standpoint, looking from a global view, like you said. We got the BRICS thing going on. We've got cryptocurrency messing with the value of the dollar. We've got wars going on. We've got the bridge in Maryland that went down that's messing up the supply chain. Like, everything's really connected. I think all that affects more than the top of the ticket would. So I looked at it more from a global standpoint of where we're at as America.
Yeah, I think that's true. I would not say that we are out of the woods yet. I was talking, and this is more national, but I was talking the other day about this brilliant article I read in the New Yorker concerning how the global, and particularly Wall Street, is in denial about Trump. They think, and a lot of the black people investing in the stock market probably think, that having President Trump is going to be good for them. Because people that did own a considerable number of stocks, I have a girlfriend that had a good portfolio, did well under Trump. And they've taken some losses, especially the wealthy. But what they're not tracking, according to this article, is that Trump 2.0 is different than the first Trump era in terms of, you look at project2025.org, he's talking about a lot more radical conservative changes, things that are not necessarily market friendly, this kind of nationalist populism, which is like not populism for the people, but populism for fascism, if you will. So things like excessive tariffs on other countries that can lead to more inflation, that can lead to different kinds of trade wars that do not benefit American manufacturers and companies, those kinds of policies. And so the article, it's in the New Yorker, maybe I'll post it, it really breaks down how even Wall Street and the fat cats who think, yay, we're going to get these tax cuts, are in denial about the instability and market volatility that can come with Trump 2.0.
Right, yeah. And I think that's a real possibility that everybody should prepare for. But me personally, I didn't really get into it on that tip. I kind of more just wanted to expand my financial literacy some. And it's a great hedge against the U.S. dollar as well, if you're looking at it from a global standpoint. So,
well, Miles, you happen to be a person with a large brain, but
like once you get into it, you realize it's not a flip, especially if you're not a big fish like that. Like you really kind of got to get in where you fit in a sense, and learn how to actually read the market as opposed to trying to look at it as a come up. It's not going to be that. You end up losing
well, it's
money.
kind of like gambling. I mean,
I wouldn't even say that.
No?
Nah.
Why?
Because you have to have discipline. And
a good gambler would have discipline too, I think.
Yeah, a good gambler would.
Yeah.
A good gambler would. But if you also realize though, by being a good gambler, you've lost more than you've won. You've had to pay. It's called paying the tuition in the stock market, from what I've heard. Once you take those couple losses, you get back up and realize what your problems are. Then you can start actually profiting it. But it's definitely a science. It's definitely not a wish or luck involved. It's really you learning how to actually read the numbers.
I mean, I have had a couple things where I was like, oh, I see that coming, because I like it. And I'm an early adapter of many things. So in about a year, 2, 3, this is going to be real popular. Paul Lee says he pays attention to the stock market and invested not just for, he says, I invested not just for myself, but my wife and children all have their portfolios. That's dope. I'm not mad at it, especially if you put something there and you're planning to leave it there for a long time, or I guess move it in, move it out.
Depending on what your strategy is. There's a bunch of different strategies to it.
Why do you think more black people are investing? Do you think it's, I hope it's not the Trump effect.
I don't think so. I think what we're seeing a lot more black faces in the trading space. It looks safer. It makes sense. It's not. There are courses. There are programs. There are groups geared specifically towards black people now. So now's probably the easiest time it's been in a long time to really get in if you. Have a small amount of money, but especially if you're black, because there are people who will, cater towards you and, help you out.
Well, I think it's interesting that you're doing that. I hope it yields you lots of horizontal income, passive income, or, but I do think it's really instructive also about what's going on in America and what's going on globally. From that sense, I may look at top line things. Speaking of national issues, we haven't talked about this, but the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has voted. Biden did do what I was hoping he would do, which is reinstate a Democratic majority on the Federal Communications Commission, and they have returned the Obama-era rules of net neutrality. So what does that mean? Well, it won't affect us as much in California because we have our own state rules, but what it means is that these big tech companies, the big communications companies, Verizon, AT&T, et cetera, cannot throttle or slow down websites and products for companies because they're not owned by them, or they don't agree with their message, or they're not paying a higher rate. They are now legally supposed to give everyone equal access to the internet, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal for everything from trading to little community-based organizations that are trying to get out a message. Say your message is about accountability for big tech. They could throttle you. Now they're not supposed to do that anymore under the Biden administration. And these are the kinds of changes that go unnoticed, right? Oh, Biden's not doing anything for black people. Biden's not doing anything for poor people. Look, I'm not saying he's perfect, and I'm not saying we don't have the responsibility of critiquing him. But when something important happens, I think it's good to note the victories. That's, to me, that is a real victory. The fact that we basically have the return of a free internet, free from corporate tyranny in a sense, and the FCC is getting back in the business of actually paying attention. When it was under Trump, he appointed a former telecommunications executive to run it. So basically, the guy campaigned for complete and total reign of terror, free reign of big tech. Just this week, they fined AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile and Verizon $200 million for sharing customers' location data without their consent. That may not seem like a big deal to you, but those are the kinds of protections I would like to have from the Federal Communications Commission. Not just, finding radio stations when someone says a bad word or, bad word. I sound like my grandma. Or not just, kowtowing and catering to big tech and these big communications firms. The FCC says it found that these folks, Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T and Sprint, that they were selling access to customers' location information to aggregators who then went and resold that information to third-party location-based service providers, and they did this without having the customer's consent. T-Mobile actually got the biggest fine at $80 million. But again, you have an FCC that has awakened and is doing their doggone job. Perfect time to call me. We are unapologetically progressive, KBLA, Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. Department of Justice has reportedly agreed to meet with the widow of slain Decatur, Alabama resident Stephen Perkins, an African-American man killed by police. That according to an attorney representing Catrella Perkins, who was briefly handcuffed and detained by cops on April 19th in a demonstration that took place during the city's monthly Third Friday festivities. Almost 100 students marched at the University of Missouri campus in Columbia yesterday, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. The students walked out of class yesterday morning and marched into downtown Columbia. The group, Mizzou Students for Justice in Palestine, organized the march. This past Saturday, more than 20 Washington University students in St. Louis were temporarily suspended for taking part in a protest over the war in Gaza. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. How does 3 months of free electricity and a lifetime of energy savings sound? Well, it's yours when you go solar with Sunlux. Learn more at sunlux.com, sunlux.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Denver Nuggets guard Jamal Murray did it again last night. He hit another game-winning shot against the Lakers in the first-round playoff series. This one sent the Lakers home after 5 games and ignited another offseason of questions and uncertainty for the franchise. Murray shook off a strained calf muscle to score 13 of his game-high 32 points in the fourth quarter. LeBron did all he could do, 30 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds in 44 minutes. After the game, LeBron was asked if he has any thoughts in his mind that he could have played his last game as a Laker. LeBron paused for about 10 seconds before saying, "I'm not going to answer that question." LeBron put the mic down and walked out of the media room. There's also chatter in the streets that Darvin Ham may have coached his last game with the Lakers. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
May is National Foster Care Month. You can help a child in need of a loving, safe, and nurturing home by becoming a foster parent, providing the support children need to be successful in life. Black children are disproportionately represented in foster care. When placed with families in their community, they have better outcomes to thrive. FosterLAKids.org or 888-811-1121. Again, 888-811-1121. Call today.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes, indeed. I thank you for that. And we kind of got sidetracked a little bit. I think, it was a really, really interesting conversation, Miles, about what you're doing on the stock market. And I commend you for learning about it. really, really interesting study. It's on the front page of the Los Angeles Times this morning about how a universal basic income, which those of you who talk to me all the time know is one of the things I advocate for. I think, it should be universal. Actually, everyone should have it. I mean, if they qualify, meaning they need it. Which means money, no strings attached. And this is what Andrew Yang was talking about. If we get to the point of a society that's so AI driven, so automated that we are losing jobs for humans, then it will get to a point where you'll either have this massive permanent underclass, or you say, okay, well, we've got AI doing everything and everything's automated, so we'll just pay a universal basic income to the low income. It's not welfare. It doesn't come with strings attached. It's just a certain amount of money that you get to improve your life or live your life. Well, the study that is written about in today's Times is saying just that. They're saying if we had, according to their research, if we had the ability, which we do, to give $1,000 a month to the unhoused, a large number of them would get off the streets. And the argument they're making is that this is more affordable than housing with permanent supportive services. Now, of course, this wouldn't work for everybody, right? So what they're talking about are people who are unhoused because they had a financial setback, got evicted, their family ran out of patience for them sleeping on the couch and not contributing to what's in the fridge. That is actually a significant number of folks. People living in their cars, people living in those RVs, right, that are parked all over. So what the researchers argue is that those people could access what they're calling informal housing, which means renting a room in a relative's home, or sleeping on a friend's couch, but you're able to contribute to the day-to-day, or you are living in an unlicensed or unauthorized apartment or unit of some kind, but you're not in a tent and you're not sleeping under the freeway. And there's a lot of people, tons of people in Southern California that already live that way. They're living in a not really converted garage or an extra room, or, in a living room or dining room or whatever other informal housing arrangements they have made. And what they're saying is that this would save a ton of money because a lot of people would be able to instantly access some kind of informal housing through their own networks if they simply had a universal basic income of $1,000. And I know maybe we'll argue about it when my friend John Wood gets here. I know a lot of Republicans are like, well, that makes people lazy, blah, blah, blah. But the studies with UBI really show that it doesn't. Because when people get a universal basic income, what the studies in Stockton, in Compton, and other places where this has been tried in LA on an experimental short-term basis show is that when people get that extra $1,000 or $2,000 or $500, whatever it is, they spend it on necessities. They get cars. They get work clothing so they could seek a job or a better job. They get enrichment programs for the kids, like middle-class kids have, tutoring or arts and crafts or something that, coding, something that will enhance their child's education. That is what the studies show. And clearly, what these researchers are arguing is that a UBI would solve a chunk of the housing crisis, unhoused persons crisis, in an informal way that would cost a lot less. They say informal housing was studied in developing countries, but it hasn't really been studied here in the United States. But I think that is fascinating. Of course I do, because it confirms something I've long thought, which is that we need to start thinking, we need to start understanding, not just from me being a progressive and thinking no one should live on the streets and everyone should have a sort of basement that they can't go beyond, a basic shack that they could live in, food, something I shouldn't even say shack. I should say home, like something that we don't go below. No one lives on the streets. No one starves. Everyone has access to health care and education. That's what I'm talking about. Now, in my ideal world, you still have the ability to go on and create your own business and build more creativity, more wealth, if that's what you choose to do. But nobody is starving. Not in a superpower. There's no reason for it. And so when we see these kinds of research projects that back that up, it's not just from an altruistic perspective, though. It pencils out from a purely budgetary capitalist standpoint because it costs less than spending $500,000 to build an apartment for that person, which, of course, we know we're working, the mayor here in the city and hopefully the governor are working to get those price points down. But if you heard the conversation last week with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, that's going to involve a lot of different layers of things, and developers are not going to consistently build what we call affordable housing if they don't find a way to make it profitable for them to do it. So this so-called informal housing market, which, I've heard people judgmentally say, well, every unhoused person on the street has family. Not true of all of them, but a lot of them do. But do we expect their grandma, who can barely survive herself on her Social Security, to indefinitely support that person? Or, whoever it is, their high school best friend or whoever, that's probably not sustainable. And it's a lot to ask. So this idea of a UBI being a game changer for people getting off the streets, a class of people, which interestingly enough is the people that are not prioritized by the unhoused system because they're less likely to be drug addicted or alcohol addicted or have a mental health problem. Those people, and I know under Mayor Bass that's changing, but it's been a bigger problem getting the people that are more likely to stay off with a little bit of help off the streets than people who are in a severe situation. So I hope that our electeds are listening, and I hope that we, the people, are listening so we can undo our stupid talking points about, well, that's a handout and people are going to get lazy. No, people are going to get up off their backs and walk. And more than likely, they will start to have an upward trajectory. Sure, there's some people, your cousin Rue or whoever, who will just stay in that space indefinitely. But most people will have an upward trajectory. Let's go to Dwight from the city of Compton. Hi, Dwight.
Good morning, Dominique. Good morning, Miles, Tavis, everyone here at KBLA and the hardworking postal workers and the KBLA family. You're so right, Dominique. These Republicans are against the government, and we forget we, the people, are the government. Anything for poor people to help them, they're against. They're against the child tax. At least they could push force the child tax credit to feed poor children, which the majority, if we're 15% of the population, or therefore, they're helping more white poor children than black poor children, and they forget that all the time. I don't know how.
You think they care about white poor children? I mean,
yeah,
that's a real question.
More white children than they are black children.
I know, but do you think Republicans care about them is the question. They claim to be pro-life. They don't want you to terminate a pregnancy, but they refuse to feed starving American children, which would only take the simple act of Republicans supporting the child tax credit, for example. Do you think they care?
Yeah.
I think they are pretty much on the same page as Melania's favorite jacket.
Yeah, and it's what's so funny, they're against birth control too. So they're against birth control to control having so many kids, but they're against feeding poor children once they're here. They're against health care for poor children. So these Republicans, they gave a $2 trillion tax break to billionaires. That's the only reason when the Bible says the love of money, they are talking about Republicans. When they're talking about they're only for their own greed, when they have more money than they can ever spend in their lifetime, they're against helping poor, hungry children, against health care for poor, hungry children, and then they're forcing women to have babies by being against birth control. So their system is to keep the poor poor and to keep the rich rich. I don't care. They could camouflage it, but I'm a Christian. Oh, none of the Bible teaches, none of Jesus teaches, none of what God said. They hide behind this fake racist Christianity that they're projecting just as camouflage for what they're really for is white supremacy racism. And I don't like to use the term white supremacy like Molly Bell said. We should inferiority complex, because they didn't want slaves to learn how to read, but still we built the White House. So we were still so genius that we built the White House, made America from picking cotton, made the cotton gin that we couldn't even get patent for. So we had to give a lot of our patents of our inventions to the white people that owned us as slaves. So, Dominique, I just want to say thank you for the information.
Of course, you're preaching to the choir. You know you're preaching to the choir, Dwight. So what do we do about it? I mean, you call up here, and I agree with what you're saying, but what do we do about it? And I know you want to comment on the protest, but, that is always going to come to mind because, yes, Molly Bell's venting in the chat, and vent away, Queen, vent away, Dwight. That's what we're here for. But also we want to center solutions as well.
Solutions, exactly. Keep out as many Republicans as possible. Vote as many Republicans out of office as possible because they've shown us they're against democracy. So we should have no Republicans in control of the Congress, no Republican president, and no Republicans really on the Supreme Court. Because look how the Supreme Court, how can we give that much power to 9 people with no ethnic rules? They don't even follow the rules that other federal judges have to follow. At least make them follow the same rules that other federal judges have to. All federal judges are on the same rules.
I mean, when you talk about the extreme court, when you talk about the extreme court, Dwight, we need term limits. I mean, and that's going to require a constitutional amendment. That's the real answer. I would be for adding more justices now because the Congress can do that without a constitutional amendment just to stop the bleeding of our nation. But I don't think that's a long-term solution because Congress can keep adding more and more and more justices and under each administration. The long-term solution has to be term limits. There's no, if that, barely that. If they shouldn't be in there for more than 12 years. That's plenty of time.
No.
3 presidential terms and bye-bye. I think that's enough.
Or let the president pick a Supreme Court. Every time we have a new president, that'll force people to put a good president in there because the
problem with that is that's too much.
Court.
But that's too much power. That's too much power.
Yeah,
that means
exactly.
That means every president that comes in has carte blanche. I don't agree with that, Dwight, because what checks and balances means the Congress is supposed to help keep the president in check, and the Supreme Court is supposed to help keep the Congress in check, and vice versa. That's too much absolute power. That's what we have right now. I mean, a Trump Supreme Court, a Trump lower house of Congress. Imagine he gets reelected. Now he selects. Kicks out Ketanji Brown Jackson. 12 years would be good because it would cycle through, and then you'd have some Republican appointees and some Democratic appointees, and we wouldn't be stuck with this super majority of conservatives for the rest of our lives and probably our child's lives.
And you see how McConnell blocked President Obama's appointment to the Supreme Court. So these Republicans changed the rules in the middle of the game to fit them.
Right.
He blocked President Obama's appointment. Then he pushed through appointment in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Framey, Phony Barrett. Dwight called 800-920-1580. You can do the same all day today. KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
It's the farewell tour. Mays featuring Frankie Beverly and KBLA wants to send you and the special mom in your life. Sunday, May 12th at the Kia Forum.
Make sure I'm right, girl, before I let go.
Also featuring soul icon Anthony Hamilton.
You the best of me. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
And After 7.
I'll give you everything. I like sunshine.
It's a Mother's Day celebration you won't forget. Listen in for your chance to win tickets. And don't forget to wear white. It's the farewell tour with Mays featuring Frankie Beverly.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
All right, let me leave our commercials alone today. I think, okay, so 800-920-1580, that is the number to call. These protests are spreading across the state with students and encampments as well. There's one now at UC Irvine, at UC Riverside, Occidental College, Sacramento State, of course, San Francisco State, my alma mater, and of course in UCLA and USC. Apparently, there was a standoff last night at Cal Poly Humboldt, and they've been closed down for almost a week because students have been occupying campus buildings. That sounds alarming if you've never been on a campus, but it's normal. It's what students do. I remember occupying buildings myself as a student, and I know, many of those of us who are activists or protesters have done the same. The cops told those student protesters at Humboldt to leave, about 100 of them, but they wouldn't. They've been threatening to arrest them. So far, they have not. Again, get a couple of leaders or representatives and sit down and start talking. Maybe budge a little bit. Maybe there's, a compromise that can happen. Or leave them alone and let them protest and do like UCLA, hire private security and so that you can address your public safety. What USC has done is escalated the situation where they felt they had to cancel their graduation, and now their smaller graduations per school are being boycotted by some writers, and they created that situation by arresting almost 100 students and having cops come in riot gear and do public safety theater. That's not anybody's fault except the administration. Is the campus unsafe? Do protesters make a campus unsafe? I would say no. But if you need to bring in private security, then do that. You're USC. You've got goo gobs of money. And work it out. Get in negotiation. Talk to those students. The Sacramento State president said the campus is fully open and operational while demonstrators are camped at the library squad. Good job, President Luke Wood. Carry on. It's an educational institution. A little bit of demonstration, a little bit of citizen engagement is actually going to be a great supplement to any child's education. Let's go to Paul calling us from LA. Good morning. Paul? Oh, maybe he's having trouble with his phone. I know. Is that you, Paul? Sounded like a robot. I don't know if you're having bad reception or whatever, but you're welcome to call us again. Same with UC Riverside. They say all operations on campus are proceeding as usual. I can't tell you how many times we protested at San Francisco State. We were protesting. We had a lot to protest, right? The Contras. We protested apartheid. We protested the closure of the threatened closure of what was at the time the only full school of ethnic studies in the country. And many times the administration would sit down with leadership and we would negotiate. And sometimes we won significant victories, and other times we didn't. But if they would send in the police, all that would do was escalate it, make us louder, madder. They didn't do that because they're San Francisco. And, you know, one of the things I learned actually after I started going to SF State was the reason we even had a school of ethnic studies was because of my father and Danny Glover and others who were there in the 60s demanded one. My dad didn't attend San Francisco State, but he helped organize the students. He was brought out there by the students. He worked with them on some theater projects and actually recruited Danny Glover into the theater, a story Danny has told me many, many times, and also worked on helping them with their organizing. And out of that was born the only school of ethnic studies in the nation. I remember when we got an ATM taken off of campus because they were heavily invested in South African apartheid. The students did that. That gave us an understanding that when you engage, when you pay attention, when we fight, we win. And at Riverside, all the students are asking is that the university acknowledge the devastation of Gaza. And guess what? The chancellor of UC Riverside, Kim Wilcox, did just that yesterday, putting out a letter. That's the kind of stuff, you back and forth. Of course, you may not be able to give the students everything they want, but you can be in dialogue and negotiation. And you can and should give in to things that are reasonable and smart and morally correct. At Irvine, they're monitoring the encampment. They do have police and law enforcement there, which I don't agree with, but they're standing back from the encampment there. They're not running in with riot gear, throwing kids on the ground and gleefully hauling them off to South Bureau. 800-920-1580. John Wood Jr. joins me next. It's a Talking Point Tuesday. Let's talk about it. This is where we unpack, unwind, and debunk the things we say that do not serve us and replace them with things that do. We are KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. Department of Justice agrees